All right, this next question, it says to Todd, but I think I'm going to start with Todd, and then if anyone else wants to chime in on this question, then certainly feel free to.
Thanks,
the question
well,
is,
that wasn't me.
the question is, Todd, can you speak to why you wouldn't support commercial flights from the airport? Given 80% of the county leaves for work, and done properly, it would bring executives and investors to Paulding.
Yeah, I can. I'll try to be short and sweet about it, because that's the hot topic. It's pretty easy for me. The airport was built for general aviation with federal tax dollars, and that's what it was built for. That's what that airport was designed for. The voters voted in '74 no. Voters voted in '99 no. They voted for the reservoir in '99 to be yes. And it was built and designed, that airport, for general aviation. Beautiful airport. If you've ever gone up there just looking around, it's a beautiful facility. But that's what it was built for. We can get into all kind of things about the airport built and who did it and how it happened and all. I know the true story behind the scenes, what happened. The bottom line is this: we've got the airport, we need to make it successful. Almost 90% of what they've discussed can be done without the Part 139. 90% of what they want done can be done without the Part 139. Once you get a commercial airport, you cannot shut it down. Okay? It's harder to shut it down than it is to get it. But this is the two grounds that I stand on, and I will not waver on this. The citizens of this county, none of us were promised a commercial airport. But this entire county was promised no commercial airport. They were promised from elected leaders before. They were promised from chairman of the board of the chairman of the airport authority today. Back then, there's videos. The law firm that serves this county knows it good and well. The city of Atlanta knows it. They were promised no commercial airport. The second ground that I stand on, sunshine laws were broken, rules were broken with getting the meetings done in order to have this. And I won't waver on it. If it was good for our community, we wouldn't be battling like this. So I'll just keep it like that. How's that?
One extra thing. Would y'all clarify when you say 139?
Sure.
Yeah, what does that term mean?
The 139 certificate is what allows commercial passenger service out at the airport.
Clarify commercial.
Okay? Commercial passenger service. Big 737s.
Hold on.
Okay?
We'll take turns.
I'll let you.
Open Pandora's box.
I'll let Dave finish that up.
Okay.
You go ahead and finish it up.
Okay.
There's three categories of aviation. General aviation, you got your own private airplane out at the airport, and you just fly privately, or you take your neighbor or friend. That's general aviation. If you fly a corporate airplane, it can be a Gulfstream 650 that's bigger than a commercial airplane that would hold 50 passengers or 150 passengers, some of them. You know, we could break out a slideshow here of different types of airplanes, the lengths of them, the widths of them, but the corporations that we're talking about, we would like to have at Paulding County is probably almost total agreement with that because of the higher paying jobs that would come out there. Some of the general aviation airplanes that fall in that category would, as far as noise level, and noise level is tremendously improved over what it was when I was in my 20s and started to fly. The engineering the technology is so much quieter and different that a Harley-Davidson's louder than most commercial airplanes or the larger corporate airplanes. The third, then commercial aviation is where you have a scheduled flights. I think it's 5 per week in your commercial, your charter, and all these different categories have different federal aviation regulations that you have to abide by. I flew for Eastern Airlines for 10 years. That was certificate 121. So it's got its own, almost an entire book on how you have to operate that. 139 is, you know, it's got its own rules that go with that. The other type of flying is military. And military, they're already doing military flying out at our airport. There's some complaints because helicopters can get loud. But those are the three categories of aviation. As far as the word promise, I've seen the Calvin Thompson video where he talks about it's a general aviation airport. There's not the word promise in there. I've never heard the specific word promise. Now when you say it's that we just built something for general aviation and that's what you want it to stay, like Mr. Thompson said, I can understand that that can be interpreted as a promise. But then there's a lot of other ways to look at that from a business standpoint. And you know, we would agree and disagree in this group of people as to whether, you know, after President Obama is out and whoever comes in, I hope none of them have to say, well, President Obama promised that we would do immigration this way. And then whoever our next, I'm for Ben Carson, by the way, whoever our next president is has to live up to that promise or that commitment. One other comment is, some of y'all in here are business people. And in the United States of America, we live in a free market economy, free market system. And if Spirit Aviation or Allegiant brings a regional jet in there that holds 50 passengers, and there's 2.5 million available passengers on the northwest side of Atlanta, you don't have to go over to Roswell or Gwinnett and ask them if they'll come over here and fly. Just go to Rome and Calhoun and you know, go to places. We got 2.5 million potential passengers on the northwest side. I have to lose my train of thought. If it doesn't work, if you can't almost load the airplane up, guess what? You can operate one gate, 2 flights a day for a year, and you're going to crunch the numbers and say, this didn't work. We're leaving here. We're not going to stay here. That's the way business works. If it does work, in Asheville, North Carolina, and it's 35 years old now, and it is controlled by an airport authority, not the county. It's run by a group of professional business people and that control that airport. And one 50-passenger jet that's 75% filled up has an economic impact to that county of $43,000. That's one round-trip flight. And that's not tax revenue that I was talking about earlier. That's if Vernon is loading the airplane, or Virginia is working as the receptionist there to take tickets, and then all the other people that are being paid to help that flight get off. Then where the people are parking their car to leave Asheville and go to Orlando. So there's a lot of different revenue streams from one 50-passenger flight. And that's a $43,000 impact per round-trip flight.
When you called to test the runway for load capacity, because they knew what it was built for, and I'm not going to get into all the sciences of it, but they knew it was built for this load capacity, and they needed to test it to see if it would do this load capacity, okay? They did that because they knew they built it for general aviation, all right? And so what I did was in 2013, in December of 2013, we had a breakfast in the basement of the chamber, Cobb EMC breakfast in the basement of the chamber, and Brett Smith was there, and he told about the plans. And so I asked him, I said, in his presentation, he said, we can do all of this up to here, 90% of that pie without commercialization. I said, if you can do that, are you willing to take that commercialization out? And it's on video. And he said no. So afterwards, I went and talked to him, asked him what his goal was. And they were talking about that he didn't really want it to be anything big, but his goal was 1 million passengers a year flying out of the airport. 737s, 150 passengers. You're looking at 28 flights a day. And so that was his goal. And that was why I was against the commercialization of the airport, because everything that they talked about, he told me himself they could do without the commercialization of it, except for passenger service, which is what he was wanting to do. So I think there's a little bit more to it.
And that was a point of clarification I had, and everybody else in the room may have gotten it, but I think I kind of missed on it. I thought I understood you guys to say that corporate jets that are owned by a company that their executives are flying in on could fly in under the general aviation permit.
That's correct. And corporate jet can be a 737. Some corporations do fly 737. So that's when they're trying to make the argument, well, if corporations are flying 737s, then why not other people? Well, you don't fly as many 737s in. Let's go back one step further, though. I personally went and talked to Jerry Sharon personally. I said, Jerry, I need to know two things from you when you were putting this airport together, because I think everybody in this county is going to blame Jerry Sharon for the airport. We have it because of him. So I need to find out two things as a commissioner to do my job. I need to run a campaign to find out where I stood on this issue. I said, Jerry, where do you stand on commercialization? And I was kind of shocked. He said, hey, I'm not for it. It was never intended to be commercial. That's not what I wanted. That's not what I saw it being. And it upsets me that people are trying to make it commercial. I said, second, did anybody, including you, ever make a promise to the people of the county that would never be commercial? He said, yes, a promise was made. It's documented. It's on tape. If you said the word promise wasn't used, people know what the intent is. When Calvin Thompson on that film says, this is not commercial, it'll never be commercial. If it was commercial, I'd be the first to run away.
Would be a part of it.
Okay, he said, wouldn't be a part of it. If he wants to change his mind now, that's fine. People change their mind. Businesses change their mind. But you come to the public, you say, hey, I've got a reason to change my mind. Let me make my plan clear to you, and then if you guys let me out of my promise, we'll go for it. That's the way you do things. That's the way you treat people. When I decided to run for office, I was chairman of the Republican Party. I made a promise to the Republican Party I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't stop what I was doing and run for office. Felt like I had to do it. Some things changed. What did I do? And everybody in here on the executive committee will tell you this. I called a meeting and said, this is what it is. I feel like I need to run. To do so, I had to resign from the chairmanship. I promised I wouldn't do that. Here's the deal. We vote on it tonight. I want to be released from my promise. If I don't have a unanimous vote, I'm staying here and I will not run because I will honor my promise. But if you guys will agree to let me out of my promise, then I will run. We had a vote. It was unanimous. So I stepped down from chairmanship and ran for office. You honor your promises. People are sick and tired of politicians getting elected, saying one thing and doing something else. I'm not going to do that. If I change my mind on an issue, you will be the first to know it. I will come to you and say, this is it. This is why I'm changing my mind. I hope you can understand. Okay? When I heard about the 1 million passenger flight, I said, hey, some math needs to be done. So I took that 1 million passengers a day. I did some math, and I said, okay, let's say a 737 holds 150. Let's say they only put 100 on there. And those 100 passengers are 2 people per car. And this is how they didn't think this through. 2 people per car. How many cars now is going to be going up and down this road right here, 278? That's an additional 1,200 cars a day. That would gridlock Hiram. That would gridlock Dallas, Powder Springs, Lithia Springs. We'd have a huge problem. Now, do I think it's ever going to come to that? No, I don't. I think if the 139 goes through, it's going to fail. How can I say that? Go look at the studies. I went to an airport authority meeting. They had a man come in and speak who represents this. You may or may not have been there. And
He was actually speaking for them.
Speaking for them, speaking for supporting the commercialization of the airport. In his speech, he said that Macon was closing down, shutting down their commercialization. After meeting, that kind of struck my ear, so I said, I need to find out why. So I went to him and asked the question, why is Macon shutting theirs down? He said, simple, they can't compete with Atlanta. Can't compete with Atlanta. He said, we have studies that show if you try to do this within 2 to 3 hours of a major hub, it will fail every time. Why do we want to set ourselves up for failure? Why do we want to bring the NSA in to the airport? And let me tell you this, when the NSA comes, and you correct me if I'm wrong, once they're here, the airport fails, they're still here. Why do we want to have NSA up there checking everything we do? I say we need to keep this airport general aviation. That's what the original promise was. The promise, Jerry Sharon told me, was also made to the city of Atlanta in our chamber building in the basement. They said, we got to buy 163 acres from you guys. Why? Because we accidentally started plowing on their land, didn't even know it. Put the runway on their land, didn't even know it. Now we're in a pickle. We had to buy the land. So we told the city, okay, this is the deal. No, it would stay general aviation, no commercial. Jerry Sharon said that promise was made to the city. I believe what Jerry said, and I'm going to honor those promises. Thank you.
Well, I said we wasn't going to talk about it, but we will. This is important to the supporters or the airport authority. Why do you want this $1 million a year? Where does the money go? Does it go to us? No. It goes out to the airport. How much does it cost a year to run that airport? I'll assure you it's less than $1 million. So, but they want the $1 million to make sure that the burden is not on somebody else. That $1 million coming from, who's it, FAA it comes from?
Yes.
It comes from them, but it takes care of the airport. But it also takes care of whoever is out there controlling it. Is there any money left over? I don't know if there is or not. But, you know, we had this thing, we opened up a can of worms Tuesday. I heard from lots of the citizens of the county. I forget exactly how many emails I had, but there was a lot. And out of that whole bunch, there were 3 that scolded me from my standpoint on the airport. And out of those 3, there was 2 that left me a phone number. 1 did not. I responded to all of them, and I told them I appreciate your input, your honesty, you know, and the 2 numbers, telephone numbers I got, I called them after I responded by email. The one said I didn't know this. And that person actually was won over and said, will you meet me next Wednesday at McDonald's at City Crest and you and I have a cup of coffee? I said, sure. The other guy, he don't know it, but he just lives just up above me in a subdivision. I could not convince him. He was stuck on this airport. But he told me, he said, I want you to know that you have made a difference in my home because you've been open, you've been honest with me, you've called me back, and he said, that's more than we're getting out of our local government now. We don't need to take a chapter from Washington and use it down here. We need to be as open with the people as we possibly can. We need to stop what I was telling you about the deception of the people. And if even it just looks like there's a deception, we need to clarify it, get it straightened out. We need to keep everything above board. When we voted on the airport the first time, I voted on it, and I voted on it the second time, and both times I voted no. However, it came about a general aviation airport. And I hope nobody ever experienced it, some of you might have. Sometimes, if you had a daughter come home with a child out of wedlock, what do? You simply embrace them and say, it's okay, I love you, we're going to make the best of this. There's where my heart was with the general aviation airport. Let's just make the best of this. There's things we can do with that airport. Blake shared will be some things that had on the table before the commercialization ever come up. We can do this, this, and this. And I said, you know, that sounds great. I hope we can do it, and I still hope we can do it. But so long as the people of this county oppose it, and I'm their representative in Post 4, I promise you I'm going to fall on the side of the people every time. And I heard it said at one point, look, they don't know what they want. They want peanut butter and jelly, and we know they need some vegetables. I don't like that illustration. The people that I knocked on the door and asked for their vote, I respect their vote. I respect them. And I think that's where the issue really is. It's not the airport. The airport is not the issue. We need to find out what the issue really is. It's not the airport. Let's get past all that. So let's move on. Let's make the best of what we got out there and give the people what they want instead of what we think we know best. If I asked anybody here, raise your hand how many people work out of the county, a bunch of you would raise your hand, wouldn't you? My children work out of the county. My son-in-law works out of the county. But guess what? That's the nature of the beast. You can go to the Interroll, you can go to any Cadillac products. Look at the tags on those cars. They're not Paulding County tags. They're Cobb County, Bartow County, Harrison. That's just the way it works. And whatever field you're in, you may have to travel over. But what I'm hearing is we don't mind the 40-mile commute, but what we like is when we come home, we're here at home, it's quiet, it's what we want. That's the reason we moved here. That's what I'm hearing. So until I hear different, I'm going to stand where I stand. Thank you.
All right.